Well, good morning, students. And today we are continuing with a topic that we started in the last session, the reading comprehension session. And we are continuing to explore different strategies to make our reading comprehension easier. Now, in the previous class, I told you the importance of improving your reading speed. I also told you the importance of analyzing the structure of a paragraph in order to identify the main idea that the paragraph contains. Now, why that is important is that you need to understand the main idea of what the author is discussing with you so that you know exactly how to answer the questions that you will get in your various examinations. If you know the main idea, the kind of questions that the examiner can ask you would be: suggest a suitable title for the passage, what is the purpose of the passage, why has the author or what has the author discussed in the passage. So there are various types of questions. All right, now since I'm coming out live to you students today, what I have done is I have created a new email ID, burnsir001@gmail.com, which is here at the bottom of the screen. So you can make a note of that. And if you have any problems regarding what we are going to discuss in this class, I suggest you drop me a line and I will try my best to get back to you as soon as possible. You also, I have been informed by the center that you can also post your comments on this video class. So post your comments, definitely they will come back to me and I will try to get back to you at the earliest. All right. So don't forget, you have two options of doing this. One is on this webinar or whatever we want to call it, or this web class, and the other is use the email ID which is on the bottom of your screen. Okay. So now to get back to what we were doing in the last class, I thought the best way to begin would be to have a look at some passages where we could really get back to revising how to identify the main idea. So let's begin. So I'll give you 1 minute to read this passage. All right, your time is up. So some of you may be wondering that, or maybe thinking to yourselves that maybe 1 minute is a bit too much time, but we need to remember that we have students tuning in who might not be as strong a reader as you are. So in order to cater to all the students, I think 1 minute is about okay. So you read the passage. Let's have a look at some of the questions. So go ahead. What do you feel should be the correct answer? I'll give you about 30 seconds to look through the answer. Okay. Do you feel that the A option is okay? Asperger's syndrome is a disorder that affects an afflicted child's social interactions? Or do you think B, C, or D are better options? Well, actually, the correct answer in this passage is answer option A. Okay. is it is disorder that affects an afflicted child's social interactions. Now, why do you think answer option B is too broad an answer? Okay, this phrase here, that affects many different aspects. Now, too many aspects are not discussed in the passage. So this makes your answer too broad, and therefore we cannot accept it as the main idea of this paragraph. What about C? Okay, now C is the opposite of B, and this is too narrow. It is a disorder causing an afflicted child to have narrow special interests. So this is just dealing with one of the problems with this disease. So since it's too narrow, we cannot accept this one as the answer. And the last option, D, Asperger's syndrome, is a disorder causing an afflicted child to act especially reserved around new experiences and people. Now, again, this answer is basically inaccurate. So the correct answer option is A. I'm sure most of you have got that answer. Right, let's come to passage 2. Okay, again, I'll give you your 1 minute. Right, now the time is up. So let's have a look at some of the questions. All right, now which of the following statements best expresses the main idea of the paragraph? So you got your 4 options. Now we cannot select option A. Why not? Because it talks about major changes. Major changes. The passage doesn't deal with changes. The passage is dealing with what? To renovate and to upgrade the schools. It's not talking about changes. Okay, so A option will not be the correct option. What about B? B talks about upgrades, but it's only talking about 2 of them, building new schools and updating technology. The passage deals with more than 2, so the answer option is too narrow. What about C? The problem with C is they talk about in the spring of next year. Now, this detail has not been mentioned in the passage. They just talk about the upcoming year. Now, when they do it, we don't know. Which leaves us with answer option D, which is the correct answer. I hope you all got that. All right, now moving ahead. Passage number 3. Right, your 1 minute starts now. All right? Okay, here's your questions. Which of the following statements best expresses the main idea of the paragraph? I'll give you 10 or 15 seconds to go through the options. All right, now in this passage, if you look at answer options A and B, they are very similar to each other. The only thing different is this. All right. Now, the passage here talks about the cognitive impairments must be evaluated. So, obviously, it will be done by trained teachers. Now, answer option A doesn't talk about the teachers. It just says that high schools are required to help the students. How do we know who are the special needs students? We don't know. So B is basically the better answer. It's the more complete answer. C and D again. C is too general a statement, and D is inaccurate. All right. So now we can do one more passage and then. So let me give you your 1 minute. All right, your time is up. Okay. Again, you have about 10-15 seconds. Okay, so the main idea of the passage. Okay, now again, answer A, the A option, is a bit too narrow because it just deals with King Arthur's legends, that's it. All right. The passage talks about legends in general and uses King Arthur as an example. So the B option in this case would be the correct one because they talk about legends like that of King Arthur can be inspirational. All right. What do you think about the C option? Legends can inspire both the young and the old. Now this is too broad an answer. We don't know how they can inspire. And D is basically inaccurate because the examiner suggests that these legends are basically fairy tales. Now, it's not mentioned in the passage. We don't know whether they are fairy tales or not. So, right, so let's now have a look at what the main part of this class would be: tone and mood. Now these are two important aspects of reading. We need to know exactly what the tone and the mood is. Now, what is the difference basically between both these words, tone and mood? Tone is the author's attitude towards the subject. Now, many times in your personal lives, maybe you have reacted to someone, maybe a friend, a parent, or a teacher, when that person said something to you because maybe the tone wasn't very friendly, or you reacted to the tone because you found the tone was very hostile towards you. All right. So tone means the author's attitude towards the subject, and it is set by the setting that he is using, the choice of vocabulary, and other details. All right. Now, if you are finding a passage which has got very, very advanced vocabulary, the sentence structures are very long, the subject matter is very esoteric, you don't know too much about the subject, then the tone really becomes formal, otherwise it becomes more chatty. Now, tone is also influenced by the formality or the informality about what we are discussing. All right. Obviously, the formal tones would be for people who are discussing topics like philosophy and other subjects. When they're discussing it at an advanced level, the vocabulary choice changes, it becomes difficult to follow what you are reading or listening to, then we say the tone is very, very formal. Usually, when a writer deals with a subject, the tone is either subjective or objective. Now, the difference between both is the tone becomes subjective when the writer involves himself in his writing. He gives you opinions, he gives you suggestions. So this becomes subjective. Objective is where the writer just deals with facts and leaves it for the reader to make his own conclusion. All right. So that is tone, which we will be dealing with in much more detail just now. And the mood is the atmosphere created by the writer. Okay. How do you feel after you have read the passage? Now, the general atmosphere created by the author's words, or the feelings and the emotions stirred by the reader. All right. So this is the difference between both. The tone is the attitude of the author. The mood is your attitude when you read what the author has said. All right. These are some of the common words that describe tone. I'm just giving this to you as an example. There are hundreds of words which describe tone. Tone basically is the mood of the writer or the attitude of the writer, and there are so many adjectives to describe moods and attitudes. Okay, I've given you a few of them, but there are so many of them that I can't put all of them into this class. What you need to look at, okay, I'll show you some words that describe mood. So maybe you can interchange these words. Okay, you can read something and feel amused. You can read something and find it very humorous and you can laugh. Okay, or you have these other words also. So they can be interchanged, and there are so many adjectives which describe tone and mood. So how do we, as students, how do we really study these? How do we build up our vocabulary to deal with tone and mood? Okay, the simplest strategy, and your generation is very lucky because you have access to the internet and you've got high-speed internet these days, and you can search for anything you like. Okay, the website I use here is thesaurus.com, which I'm sure you know about. And how do we go about studying tone and mood? Okay, I'll give you some examples. This is how it is done. This is how we do it in colleges or wherever we are teaching or trying to study tones. Now, you take one emotion, like I've just given you happy and angry as two examples. Okay, so go to thesaurus.com and you'll get, I'm just giving you a few examples, you get a whole lot of synonyms related to the word happy. So you make a note of them. Okay, then what you do is you take words at random, like I've taken ecstatic as an example, and these are the synonyms related to ecstatic. Again, there's a long list, I've just taken a few examples. Now, maybe in these lists you find a few words that you are not aware of, few words that you don't know. Maybe you don't know the word beatific. Maybe you don't know the word rhapsodic. Maybe you don't know the word delirious. Okay. You can study these words if you like. And the point really is, don't try to learn the meaning of each of these words. When you make these word trees, what you are doing it for is to understand that all these words in some way or the other are related to the adjective happy. So in your examination, obviously the examiner is not going to give you 2 or 3 of these in your answer options. You'll have just one. So if you can just remember that, okay, these words belong to the word tree of happy, you're okay. You can understand whether the writer is happy, the tone of the writer is happy, cheerful. So you can choose one of these. Okay. Then from the group ecstatic, I chose this one as an example for you. Enthusiastic, same thing. These are synonyms related to enthusiastic. So therefore they are also related to happy. And in this way, you enlarge your vocabulary. Don't try to learn words in isolation because it's an impossible task. Vocabulary, as you probably know, is one of the most boring areas of language that you need to deal with. So this is one way of doing it, where you put them into families or word trees, and you try to understand that these words are related to each other. Now there is one word of caution. When you plan to use these words, please remember that even though they may be synonyms, they are used in different linguistic environments. We cannot interchange these words and then argue that these are synonyms, therefore I have used it. Okay. Some of them are used in specific contexts and cannot be used in another context, even though it is a synonym. So be careful of that. If you want to use a word, study how that word is used. Similarly, I've done one with the word angry. I've just taken out some synonyms and pulled out at random, because maybe you don't know the meaning of the word irascible. Okay, so here we have a few synonyms related to this word. Again, while you are studying this, the idea is you make a nice long list, and the idea is you can recognize that these words are somehow or the other related to the keyword angry. And you can, when you are reading the passage, by the tone of the writer's words or the choice of words he uses, you can very easily say that the writer is angry with something. So what is the tone of the passage? It's angry, it's irascible, it's fractious, it's recalcitrant. So then the examiners have this strategy of testing your vocabulary in these questions by not giving you, they won't give you angry, for example. They'll give you maybe cantankerous. So some of you might be able to make the association, others might not. So this is how you make these word trees. There are so many different strategies of doing them. I found this one to be as simple as possible. And what you do is, if you're working with a friend, then it becomes so much easier, because you can take 3 or 4 and make verb trees. Your friend can make another 3 or 4. When you pool your resources, you have obviously much more. All right. So this is one way. It's a fun way of improving your vocabulary and learning about tones. Okay, here let's do a few questions. Let's see if you can. So bouncing into the room, she lit up the vicinity with a joyous glow on her face as she told about her fiancé and their wedding plans. All right. Now, bouncing into the room, she lit up the vicinity with a joyous glow on her face as she told about it. Now, what do you think is the tone of the passage here? Obviously, the writer is in a cheerful mood, in a happy mood. All right. The sentence is very, very positive. How do we know this? What are the context clues that we get? You've got words like bouncing into the room. Okay, she lit up the vicinity. Joyous glow on her face as she told about her fiancé and their wedding plans. So these are the various context clues that we have to help us to identify the tone. And what is your mood when you read a sentence like this? You feel happy, you feel glad for this girl. Okay, so everything is positive here. Now, in contrast to 1, look at 2. She huddled in the corner, clutching her tattered blanket, shaking convulsively, feverishly searched for something, unknown dangers that waited her. So what is the tone? What is the writer trying to do in this sentence? Obviously building up the suspense, building up a sense of horror maybe, mystery maybe. So the writer is being mysterious, okay. Context clues we've already discussed. Now what is the mood when we read sentences like this or novels like this? There's apprehension, there's a bit of fear, there's a bit of anxiety, there's a little bit of concern. We are worried about this poor girl in the story. All right. Now, what about the third one? Bursting through the door, okay. The flustered mother screamed uncontrollably at the innocent teacher who gave her child an F. Very common in today's scenario, where the parents demand that the children get higher marks than what the teacher has given. So, what is the tone of the writer here? Okay, what would you say is the tone here? What is the tone of the writer? What is the writer trying to show here? Sympathy for the mother? Or do you think there's a certain amount of humor here? All right. So basically the tone here would be humorous. All right. The context clues we've given you here, and the mood that it puts into you would be maybe irritation, maybe annoyance. Okay. So this is how you basically identify tones or moods. Okay, moving on, let's try this one. I'll give you 1 minute to do both. All right. Now, how would you describe passage 1? How would you describe the author's attitude towards the treadmill? Key words to help us to make our decision could include keywords could I gripped its handlebars as the belt started moving me backwards. All I could do now was run or begrudgingly barrel forward. Begrudgingly meaning very reluctantly, not wanting to do it, toward an outdated screen. Okay, that showed me the terrain I was supposed to be running on. It was made of red squares stacked up. The higher stacks were supposed to be steep hills and the lower ones valley. I tried to picture them as burning coals to see if that would make me speed up, or at least that this exercise was somehow connected, even one of its cruel parts. Alright, now obviously these are all negative words. So do you feel the author is very happy about getting on the treadmill? Obviously not. So this is showing the writer's reluctance, okay, his anxiety maybe, uh, his dissatisfaction, okay. On passage 2, on the other hand, my heart sped up faster, okay. Instead of pressing select to escape, I just selected the power run, a sleek screen, the simple set. Now both of them saw the same screen, but the definitions are completely different. They got me, the lines look like a pulse, they got me to run faster and faster than I could run outside, okay. It may not have looked like I was going anywhere that night, but I had just broken out of a 10-year slump. Okay, so what do you feel is the attitude of the author towards the treadmill? This is more positive, okay, enthusiastic, okay, anticipatory. He's anticipating that he could run faster, he could improve himself. So this is how we deal. The words, the language that is used by the writer will help you to identify the tone. Now there are many times when you get passages which have a lot of questions in them. Now, what kind of tone do you think that would be conveyed? There are lots of questions there. So obviously, if there are questions, the author doesn't expect you to answer them loudly. He wants you to think about them. So the tone becomes rhetorical. Okay. So these are different. Sometimes the writer is making fun of someone. He uses sarcasm. He uses irony. So there are so many. The writer could be very critical about something. All right. So these are all different tones. Sometimes you notice that the writer has a very distinct bias towards something or against something. So the writer's tone becomes biased or prejudiced. So this is how you work with the different tones. And please be aware that this is a very popular question in your comprehension. Okay, moving ahead. Go ahead, read this one. This is a longer passage. So read it. I'll give you, what should I give you this? I'll give you the same 1 minute. Now it will become a little tougher. Okay, I hope you managed to read it. I tried to give you enough time, but in case you feel that the time is too much or too little, so definitely put a note, and I'll change it for the next class. Okay, let's see the questions now. Right. The first sentence in paragraph 1 indicates that the author's purpose is, now what exactly is the purpose? Is it to analyze the problems? I don't think the writer is analyzing anything. He's just giving us facts, yeah? Okay. To explain the growth of standards and measurements? No, he's dealing with just the past. To describe the problems associated, so this is more appropriate as a main idea for this paragraph. So this would be the correct answer here. All right. He's not classifying anything, and he's not persuading readers. He's not trying to persuade you to do anything. Okay. What about the tone of the passage? What would you say? he's definitely not angry with anyone. The writer is not confused. He's very clear about how he writes his things. And this is a very, very formal kind of a tone. So, formal in the sense that he's just dealing with facts and his language is a bit formal. And informative, yes. Ironic? No, definitely not. So, the best option would be the formality of the tone. Or, personally, I don't really think that formality for me would be the correct tone here. I would go more for something like this, because it's just giving us information basically. So I'd rather go for the D option. Okay? Right, here's another passage. Now read this and see what. I'll give you your 1 minute. All right. Right. Let's see the question. What do you feel now? So, in developing this passage, the organizational pattern, that means what is the style that the writer has used to describe? Is he just doing a simple listing? Is he using a time order? There is a bit of time, but obviously not anything serious about that. So, no, it's definitely not the time order. What about example? Yeah, there are plenty of examples that they've given. All right. Cause and effect, there's nothing there. They're not comparing and contrasting. So the best option would be the C option here. And if you take the tone of this passage, what would you say? Again, formal or optimistic? Not really. Formal maybe, but this is more of a serious type of writing. Okay. The author is not being critical or sympathetic, so both these options would not be appropriate. Okay. Now, this is something which I gave you, which is going to be a little bit tougher for you, so I think I'll give you 2 minutes for this. Okay. And there we go. So you have 2 minutes to do this. All right, my dear, my dear students, I hope you've had enough time to read this. Okay, let's have a look at the questions. I'll keep shuttling between this screen and the questions, so you can always refer back to the passage. Okay, so let's take them question by question. So with which of the following is the passage primarily concerned? Which answer do you feel is the best answer to? We're not talking about the possibility of changing the environment. You're not talking about interplanetary travel at this point. So the best option here would be the D option, right? Okay. The word stark in paragraph 1. So let's go back to the paragraph and have a look at stark. Here. A dark, stark, seemingly lifeless world. All right. So what does this word mean? Harsh, unknown, dark, or distant? Okay. A dark, stark, seemingly lifeless world. Okay, so we don't know too much about it. So the best option would be. Okay. Question number 3 says the word there in paragraph 1 refers to. So let's have a look at this. Here. Mars's air pressure is equal to Earth's at an altitude of 100,000 feet. The air there is 95% carbon dioxide. So what does the word there in paragraph 1 refer to? Obviously it refers to Mars. Okay. Question number 4. Which of the following does the author not list as a characteristic of the planet Mars that would make colonization difficult? All right. The A option says there is liquid water, and the passage says, where is this? Daytime temperatures, blanketed. Yeah, today he says there is no liquid water. So there is liquid water would be what the writer did not say. Okay. According to the passage, the Martian atmosphere today consists mainly of the Martian atmosphere. Air pressure is equal to Earth. So the air there is 95% carbon dioxide. Mars has no ozone layer to screen whatever. All right. So obviously the answer would be this one. Okay. And in the last one, it can be inferred from the passage that the greenhouse effect mentioned in paragraph 2. The greenhouse effect mentioned in paragraph 2. Here's the greenhouse effect. So nuclear reactors might be used to melt frozen gases, etc. This in turn could create a greenhouse effect that would stop heat from radiating back into space. Liquid water could be thawed. Okay. So what exactly is this greenhouse effect? Again, the D option would be the best. Well, I'm sure you've got all these answers correct, so there's nothing really to worry about. We need to practice, and as I've told you before, I'm telling you again, the best place to practice is reading the newspaper every day. It will keep you up, obviously, with your current affairs. It will improve your reading speed. It will improve your confidence in reading. And once you are confident, comprehension is not as difficult as people imagine it is. All right. So that would be, I think, enough for today. And before I go, I would like you to remember that I had in the beginning. I would like you to remember the email ID I gave you in the beginning. Please make a note of it. If you have any questions related to this lesson that you wish to discuss, please send me an email, and if the answer is a very long answer, then maybe we can discuss it in the next class, or I'll just send you an email back responding to your questions. But please try and keep your questions related to what we have discussed. All right, questions which don't relate to what we have discussed, I might not be able to answer them immediately. Priority will be given to the questions related to this lesson. All right, so that's all for today, my dear students. Goodbye, and until we meet again.